Hello and welcome to new Vista Solutions video training series. This training was created to help mortgage lenders better understand how energy efficiency is being incorporated into the residential real estate market and how property owners are benefiting from it. The video you're about to see was created by our partner IncentiFind. IncentiFind manages the nation's only database of more than 25,000 green energy incentives that are available to help property owners pay for energy efficient renovation projects. At the end of the video, you'll be directed to a website where you can learn more about green incentives and how to access the IncentiFind database. We hope you enjoyed this training and look forward to answering any questions you might have.
Hello, and welcome to today's webinar, brought to you by IncentiFind. This will be the first in a series of webinars that's geared towards the lender community, to touch on how IncentiFind's products can be easily integrated with a lender community and how we basically can do more energy efficiency projects together so that we can make our planet more sustainable and fight back against climate change. The subject of today's webinar that we'll be touching on is giving you the basics about energy efficiency and then how IncentiFind's products can then be integrated into your loan sales cycle at a lending institution so that we can then finance more energy efficiency projects. So a little introduction about myself. So I am your webinar host for today, and my name is Nicholas Zuba. I'm a strategic advisor on residential lending at IncentiFind, and I've been in this role now for just over 2 years in working on these efforts. And just want to give a quick nod to our founder and CEO, Natalie Campos-Goodman. She will be your main point of contact on any questions you might have about IncentiFind's products and how they can certainly work with you in your lending institution. So before I touch on the topic that we'll be going through today, I just want to give you a quick introduction about IncentiFind itself. So we are the nation's only database for home improvement incentives, where we bring cost savings to every home improvement project. This was an organization founded in 2017 and is presently based in Houston, Texas, where we serve all 50 states in the United States, and as well as in Canada. We are a team of 21 strong, and we continue to grow. And as well, we are an incentive database that does provide currently access to 24,000 or more incentives that also continues to grow in size and access throughout the course of the entire country in terms of the improvement programs that are out there. And we're the only database to really connect up 25,000 separate projects to nearly $20 billion worth in incentives by using just a 2-minute survey, which I'll be touching on later on in this webinar, and about how that can be integrated into the sales cycle. And the 24,000 incentives that I was just mentioning about, they fall into a series of different categories. They can include tax incentives, grants, fee waivers, rebates, or even utility bill credits. And then beyond that, they can fall into other types of categories. So for example, for new construction projects, which might be seeking to make a building to be acting to be above what the energy code or building code of that jurisdiction is asking them to build to, or to achieve a certain type of certification. So like LEED for homes, for example. And this can be very helpful for brownfield redevelopment type projects, opportunity zones. So that's a type of a tax incentive zones that were set up under the Trump administration, and as well as PACE eligible districts where you can provide that type of secured PACE financing in this case to do energy saving projects. And then for existing buildings where you'll be retrofitting an existing building on site, it's also been very helpful for basically on economic development efforts. Doing for certain types of certifications and as well as even for resilience purposes. So not only improving the building so that you could reduce energy consumption, but then to also adapt that property so it can be resilient against any potential climate loss, whether it be flooding, a hurricane, or anything to that nature. Okay, so now that I've introduced exactly what IncentiFind is, let me now just touch on the topics that we'll be talking about today. So this includes why energy efficiency is important and why lenders should care then about energy efficiency. And then I'm going to go into the basics about energy efficiency, which will touch on types of improvements that a homeowner can make to make their home more energy efficient, and then the process of really how you would develop a scope of work to really determine what are the best energy saving opportunities for a home. And then how we would then incorporate IncentiFind's products into your sales cycle so that we can make this an integrated process that makes sense and works for you in your timeline at a lending institution so that you will be able then to go and still close on a loan. All right, so on the first topic of why is energy efficiency important? Well, it's really important from my perspective for three different reasons. The first of which is that we continue to see rising energy costs. Now, this is not just simply because utilities themselves might charge you higher rates, say for your electricity bill or say your natural gas bill, but just as homes tend to age and the energy systems within those homes will continue to age, over time, they're not going to be able to work as efficiently as they were when they were first put into a home. So over time, these improvements tend to degrade. And that means then over time, they'll have to use more and more energy as they continue to degrade in their efficiency. And then as they degrade and they have to use more of that energy, that's simply going to lead now to more energy cost for the homeowner. And as a result then of those higher energy costs, this will now create an overall tighter budget for that homeowner. This is now going to start creating constraints on terms of what now a homeowner might be able to pay for, whether it be insurance for their home, their food bill, or even more importantly, their mortgage. So this will now make it just all the more harder for a homeowner to afford all of the operational costs that's necessary for upkeeping that home and for basically be able to occupy their home. And then certainly lastly, and most importantly, is really the issue of climate change. Because we've seen the evidence of how bad climate change can be, and that it's a growing and worsening existential threat to our planet. We look no further than hearing about wildfires out in the West, droughts in the and floods that have occurred in the Midwest. And then certainly on our shorelines, the issue of hurricanes. We saw the Gulf Coast this past year was battered by several different storms that affected, basically areas around Texas and Louisiana. So we know that this continues to be a threat that's not going to go away, and we're going to continue to see worsening conditions as time goes on and it runs unabated. All right, so then why should lenders then care about energy efficiency? Well, again, we go back to some of these core issues of rising energy costs. So again, as we know over time, these particular properties are going to continue to use more and more energy because they're just growing more and more inefficient over time. And then basically because they're growing more inefficient over time, we find that then where this is going to then lead to climate change more is going to be a problem because also too, as basically, a property has to use more energy in this case, that means then that's more carbon emissions going into our atmosphere. And that's the whole reason why climate change is becoming worse. And so as the impacts of climate change that we've been seeing, as I mentioned about wildfires, hurricanes, and droughts and floods, now what this also could impact is the safety and soundness of the asset, in which case your lending institution holds that mortgage on. Because now if that home gets severely damaged because of the result of climate-related disasters, then we are seeing that then this is going to lead to more risk to you holding that mortgage on that particular asset. And so now that's going to then cause that asset to certainly be more of a risk in your portfolio, and now is going to certainly now be, I think, more of a concern for your lending institution going forward. But then certainly why lenders should then care about energy efficiency is that now this is an area where you can become your own subject matter expert. Because now learning more about energy efficiency is going to help you now to understand about another critical topic area that can actually lead to the development maybe of another business line or even a line of new lending products that can specifically target energy efficiency in this case. So having your loan officers be more cognizant and more knowledgeable about energy efficiency, this is now going to lead to them being able now to sell more financing and certainly close on more deals that are now going to have energy efficiency incorporated into it, so that now you'll continue to get more of that business for your lending institution. All right, so now that I've touched on why energy efficiency writ large is important, and then why it should be important to you as a lender, now let's go into talking about energy efficiency basics in this case. So as I mentioned, let's start with talking about different types of energy efficiency improvements. So let's start off with lighting, right? So lighting, as we know, is a very important component to any home. It provides many different purposes. It could be for decor purposes, it could be for safety, and as well as for any kind of other utility in this case. But certainly those first two are really the main ones, providing kind of the decoration for the home, but then certainly your safety and soundness, because if you don't have lighting in your home and it's at night, how can you see around you in your home? So according to the Energy Information Administration, we've seen that lighting on average can account for about 10% of a home's energy usage. And so that could actually still make up a pretty big proportion really of a homeowner's energy bill. But then with that, that can also be a very optimal opportunity to reduce energy consumption. And as I kind of like to call it, it's that proverbial low-hanging fruit, right? Because it's one of the easiest ways that you can actually make some energy saving improvements to that particular home. So this could always be just a no-brainer in terms of how you would then go about making an energy efficient improvement. So let me give you some examples of just the different types of lighting that's out there, and going from what's the most least efficient to then what's the most efficient in terms of those types of lighting. So you start off with your average incandescent light bulb. So this is really what would be your least efficient bulb, right? So say we might start off with this. This is going to certainly use up the most energy, because this could be like a 40-watt bulb. It could be a 60-watt bulb. And this is going to consume all of those 40 to 60 watts. But then you would move down the scale down to a compact fluorescent bulb. This will use an equivalent a lower amount of energy in this case, because now the amount of watts will not be that 40 to 60. Now it can maybe go down to a lower amount, but then give off the same amount of light that, say, that 40 to 60 watt incandescent bulb would have been able to give. So this will use far less watts, but still give the same amount of light that will still serve the same utility purposes. And then lastly, we'll go down then to the LED light bulb. This will use the least amount of energy and watts of energy itself, so that you can, again, get the most benefit, in this case, of that light, as you would have gotten from an incandescent bulb. So really, you go from an incandescent bulb, that's the least efficient, and you can go all the way up to an LED bulb, and you can see a tremendous amount of savings just by making those improvements. So here's a chart here that actually talks about that. So basically, I was just using that example really of the 60-watt incandescent bulb that you might have in most lamps in a home. And then maybe you might go down then to the equivalent wattage for a 60-watt bulb for a compact fluorescent one is maybe only 13 watts. And then ultimately with an LED bulb, most that can actually have it where it can have the equivalent of a 60-watt incandescent bulb can now be just something where it runs on 9 watts. So 60 just down to 9 is a tremendous amount of savings. And so let's take a look at that in this case, right? So when you see at the end of the day, if you have, say, 10 bulbs that you're using in that home, and say you operate the home for maybe somewhere around 1,500 hours in a given year, now you're going to get that to where you're going to see how much energy it's using for every kilowatt hour of electricity that's being used. So you'll see in the top right-hand corner here, I have a little equation that shows you how you actually calculate the number of kilowatt hours. So you take the number of watts of that bulb, you multiply by how many bulbs you have, and then by how many hours of operation you have, and divide that over 1,000. And then that will give you the ultimate kilowatt hours that those bulbs are using. So if you have, say, those 10 60-watt bulbs, you would then be consuming 876 kilowatt hours of electricity each and every year. But then if we go on down to doing an LED bulb and we say we switch out those 10 incandescents with 10 LED bulbs, now the total energy usage will drop to 131 kilowatt hours. So that's well over 700 kilowatt hours of savings in this case to that property owner, and that could really show some demonstrable energy savings in terms of dollar value to that property owner, because certainly every kilowatt hour is going to count in terms of helping to reduce their electricity bill. And so doing these types of lighting improvements can certainly have some pretty good incentives associated with it. Now, an example, maybe say in Chicago, you'll get a rebate for getting basically a more energy efficient bulb, in which case that's a rebate you get right up in front, when you buy it in the store, and that's an instant discount that you might get. Or in a community in Chicago, they could also be where LED bulbs are offered for free through maybe a particular type of program that a property owner will go through at the utility, that they can be able then to take advantage of getting some of those bulbs where it's of no cost to them. So either it can be at a discounted price, or it can certainly be provided for free if, say, you were trying to get those kinds of efficient bulbs in Chicago, as one example. All right, so now let's move on to the next type of improvement, which could certainly be your heating and cooling equipment. So heating and cooling of homes certainly is the most important way so that we're helping to maintain, an occupancy comfort, in this case, inside of that home, right? Because certainly during the summertime, you want to make sure that you're in a cool home. And during the winter time, you want to make sure you're in a warm and very comfortable home at the end of the day. So this is certainly a very key, aspect of home comfort in this case, so that you're properly heating and cooling and during any particular season. And according to the same agency of the Energy Information Administration, what they say is that on average, 51% of the energy use of the home comes from heating and cooling. So it's clear that this is probably the biggest amount of energy that is produced, or has to be consumed, I should say, for how basically a home is going to operate in this case for providing that heat and cooling for the home itself. And so improving the efficiency of this equipment will help them produce some significant savings. So what are some ways in which case that could probably be done? So, one of the common ways that we see homes that are heated today is basically through a boiler system. And then that boiler system is going to then heat up water, which then will be then distributed throughout basically the home's systems that they're going to have for then putting the heat into that home itself. That could be through a standard baseboard system, or as well as even radiant type system, where there can then be piping running through the floor itself and can provide the heat through the floor, so that basically then you can also see the benefits of that heating to the home itself. Now, the standard efficiency of a boiler is said to run somewhere approximately around 84%, but you can improve the efficiency of that boiler by now putting in a high efficiency unit that will actually then run at a 95% or better efficiency level. So that will already improve the efficiency on a minimum of probably about 11% on average. So that is actually going to be a significant savings as well, certainly on your natural gas bill, if you have to heat it that way, or certainly your electric bill, if you happen to be an electric heat type home as well. And then another way certainly to heat a home is through basically a furnace system, which can then also distribute that through like a forced hot air, through steam, that can then be sent through piping into the home itself, into your main rooms that you'll be seeking to provide that comfort and occupancy for. Now, what are some ways then you could cool your home? So there are certainly a couple different ways that we could look at that. Now, one certainly common way that we've seen homes get cooled is basically through an air conditioner unit that's either in the wall or it's through a window. But see, the problem with this type of system is that, it's almost kind of proverbially known as a hole in the wall. And the reason for that is because now you have a situation where you're putting this unit through a actual, say, hole in the wall that you've had to go and put that system through. And what that's going to open you up potentially to is more air infiltration. because if it's not properly insulated around the actual air conditioning sleeve that's put into the wall itself, that's going to lead then to more air infiltrating into the home at any given point. And then that's going to actually then force that air conditioner to have to work harder. Because say during the summertime, if you're getting more of that heat and the hot air from the outside infiltrating into the home, that's going to cause the air conditioner's compressor to have to constantly kick in to be able to maintain the set point that you'll set for that particular room. And so that would certainly make it where it's going to be, certainly more of an energy suck for the actual homeowner itself. And then certainly during the winter months when they're not using that air conditioner, now that could be a source of where cold air can now come in, and that's going to result now in your heating equipment to work harder than it would have to. So that's certainly the double sort of whammy that you might be dealing with when you're dealing with having an air conditioning system through your window or your actual wall. But an efficient way of actually cooling your home is through a central air system. And the reason why this could be more efficient is because now the air is just being distributed through internal ductwork that's not going to now require units to penetrate those exterior walls of the home. And so even though the actual unit could actually be on the outside that's providing the cooling in this case, so the air though still does get put through really and distributed through those internal ducts, which can then be protected and be insulated in this case, so that there is going to be no cooling loss in this case from that air going in through those particular ductwork into your rooms that you're seeking to keep the comfort for. So that could be a little bit more of an efficient way than certainly putting air conditioning units just into the walls or into a window space. So let's give you another example of the types of incentives that could be out there. So let's say, for example, in Dallas, if you buy certain maybe types of heating or cooling equipment, you again could get an instant rebate of some kind that could be at the point of sale for purchasing that type of unit. You could also get a free smart, say thermostat in this case too, which could help with better regulating the temperature within your rooms in this case, where you're looking to keep the set points at certain levels. And then also too, there's other sort of tax credits that are out there as well that you can gain access to for helping to reduce basically energy costs in this case for putting those improvements in. So those are all different types of ways that now you can also get an instant savings off the top of putting in this type of heating and cooling equipment. All right, so now let's go also to another common area in homes where we see there could be some where you'd be air infiltration and issues could be with your windows and doors. So windows and doors, again, are very important from a standpoint of creating a thermal barrier to protect occupants from any exterior weather elements, right? So because if, again, you don't have proper sealing, say, around those windows, or as well as that you have, say, windows itself that don't have what's known as a very high U value in this case, or have too high of a U value in this case, that's going to help to then basically create more opportunities for air to infiltrate, whether it be during the summertime or certainly the winter time, that will throw off the ability for the home's thermal envelope in this case to be protected and to be fully secure in this case, so that you can keep that hot or cool air inside of the home, depending on what time of the season that has to be done. And so, the U value in this case is also basically an efficiency rating to try to guard you again to developing that particular, basically, it's that thermal envelope that you're trying to get for your property. And the lower that U value, the better the efficiency of that window to protect you from those elements. And then doors can also have a very good efficiency equivalencies to insulation, where they say that usually a door on average can have an R value to the equivalent of an R5 to R6. So that's not necessarily the best type of insulating, because obviously the higher the R value, the better in terms of its insulated value, in this case, to protecting you from the exterior elements. But the bottom line, though, too, is that a way to help with windows and doors in this case to make them more efficient and prevent air infiltration, which I'll get to in a second, is certain things like weather strippings around doorways and caulking around the windows in this case. That can help reduce air infiltration through those particular areas of the home. So again, you're able to trap in the heating or the cooling in this case that you need to do, so you're not making your systems use more energy and work harder than they actually are designed to do. And so, in this case, there's not necessarily a lot of type of incentives really for these types of improvements. So, that could be things just like, basic tax credits. There could be PACE financing available just to help, basically pay for that project to be done. But there might not be as lucrative of incentives in this case as I was showing you in the past examples. So again, there's only just a limited amounts in this case that can actually help you with maybe improving these types of systems within your home. All right, so then just what I was touching on about weatherization and insulation, these are actually pretty important too, again, for helping to create that thermal barrier so that the home's occupancy is really basically protected from exterior elements. Now, weatherization could be made up of things like, as I was just mentioning, it's basic air sealing. So like that caulking and weather stripping that will be done around windows and doors respectively. So it just helps to reduce the amount of air infiltration and basically causing your energy systems to have to work much harder to keep that area occupied that's going to be cooled or heated over time. And then insulation is helping to fill basically any wall cavities that helps to create that thermal barrier. So basically, if you've ever seen, a wall open in this case, you'll see that there's usually either fiberglass type insulation. So that kind of like, it kind of looks like cotton candy, I'd say, as an example. And then also too, you could have what's also known as like blown in cellulose. That could also be another example of a type of insulative product in this case. And so that will go into the cavities to help protect you from the outside elements. And again, as I was mentioning that, the higher the R value, the greater that thermal barrier is then going to be in terms of protecting you from the exterior elements. And so this will all be very helpful, again, to keep your energy costs down so that, basically the heating and the cooling that you're trying to do for the occupied space doesn't basically going to be ruined by any air infiltrating into the home unnecessarily. So yeah, the types of incentives for this is a little more robust. So for example, in the Washington D.C. area, there can be a specific insulation tax credit to really help with reducing the cost to you of that project. And then certainly if you're in a low income environment in this case, then there's the weatherization assistance program that can actually help them with really defraying the amount of cost in this case for installing these kinds of improvements inside your home. And then as well as certainly then for PACE financing, which just can help with overall financing that particular project as well overall. All right, so I've gone through what are the different types of improvements that you can get in a home that can help with improving the efficiency of it. So now how just exactly do we identify those improvements? So really it can be through a three-step process, which is all basically part and parcel of what's known as an energy audit. And in that energy audit, that's basically things like doing a blower door test, a thermal imaging process, and then inspecting the current equipment that's actually inside the home itself. All right, so let's say we're starting off with a blower door test. So a home performance contractor will go in, and what they're going to do is they're going to place a big blower door that basically fits into, say, your front door of your home. There's an actual frame that will be able to fit into any size door in this case. And then what it will do is it will basically identify where air leakages are coming within the home. Now, the way that this is done is that you use this high-powered fan to then basically lower the air pressure inside of the home. So it's helping to draw out that air, in this case, inside the home to lower it. Because then what we're going to have happen is then we're basically pulling that air out so that now the outside higher air pressure can then flow naturally back into the home itself through the crevices so that we can identify the deficiencies that are within the insulation and as well as even within the air sealing that's being done inside that home. And so once you continue to do that blower door to see just how many air cycles per hour, which is basically the metric that home performance contractors will use, and I believe it's really with seeing how many of those air cycles that they're getting. The lower the amount of those cycles, obviously, the better and more efficient then that home is going to be. You don't want to have many more cycles per hour in this case, because then that shows there's too much air leakage then coming in and too many cycles in this case of air coming through. And that's going to lead then to certainly a less efficient home in the end. And then when you're doing the blower door test, you're going to see basically now in thermal imaging how really hot or cool is the home in this case, and where are you seeing potentially those air leakages coming into the home itself. So the thermal imaging can actually then inspect that and find those air leakages, and then basically find out then where there could be remedies in this case in terms of providing better insulation inside the wall spaces, or if there has to be more air sealing done in this case to be able to find out, what else they can do to help basically reduce the amount of air cycles coming into the home. And so that basically then your systems then won't be having to be working as hard to heat or cool your home. And then certainly as part of this process, a contractor will take an inventory of your current home's energy systems. And so they're going to inspect that current equipment inside the home and then really determine what is the efficiency and the usage ratings really and age of that systems that are sitting inside of the home. And then they will factor into their decision really on what are then the types of opportunities then are best suited then for their property. So basically all these different steps are what's part of really what's known as an energy audit on the home. And then once they are able to collect all this data and information, they can then, as a contractor, make a determination on what are the best opportunities for that home to reduce its energy consumption. And then they'll come back to the homeowner with basically a report and a proposal on the types of improvements that could really be done to enhance and to improve the efficiency of the home. And typically in the scopes of work, those 5 different types of improvements that I mentioned and I went through in this primer is really the types of improvements you'll commonly see that a contractor will come back to a property owner to do. So it's not uncommon that you'll see those types of improvements being recommended as part of the scope of work. And so what are the type of home improvement projects then that could potentially include energy efficiency in it? Well, I think there's 4 different types of opportunities that you might see. The first of which is your standard home energy efficiency retrofit project. So where the homeowner is only just coming in to say that we want to basically just focus on reducing our energy consumption of our home, and that they're not making any other material type of improvements to the home itself, and that this is going to be their primary focus. So that certainly is going to be the first of those types of retrofits that they might do. The second could be just a general home renovation. So that's going to be including things like, maybe they're just going to go and, do some just general aesthetic type, improvements. It could be things like, they're going to reduce basically their, they're going to, basically help with, making their home look more attractive. They're going to put better cabinetry in their kitchen. Maybe they're going to change out their appliances and maybe make some, basic lighting improvements, maybe as a starting point for efficiency. Those are the types of maybe improvements you might see just generally within a home renovation. Then a gut rehabilitation is going to be where they're keeping the existing shell of the building, but now they're going to gut really all of the inner parts of the home itself down to the studs, so that they're really doing a major sort of changes to the home itself, where maybe they're going to change, maybe how the rooms are laid out potentially by moving potential load-bearing walls potentially, or as well as some just other divider walls in this case that they might either take down or put up. And then certainly could be a real prime opportunity while maybe a home's down to its studs, that now you can go in to look at improving insulation inside the wall spaces before you close them back up again, or doing things where you're putting better windows and doors in that can improve the insulative quality for the home and in creating better thermal barrier. So those are just types of examples you might be thinking of in that type of setting. And then certainly new construction, I think it's where anything can be done in this case. And we'll touch a little bit on that a little later on as we talk about more of those types of those projects that you might see come across your desk in this case for a loan application when you're going to be helping a property owner get some financing. All right, so I've gone through all of these examples of these type of improvements, how you can develop and create a project in this case, and how that's brought about, and what kind of maybe potential bigger projects that you're going to be doing. And so let's say, for example, maybe you're in the Los Angeles market, and you're going to be able then to get incentives for doing, say, all the different types of improvements I just mentioned in this case, right? So if you improve lighting, you might get those in-store or instant discounts. If you're going to get heating and cooling equipment replacements, might be getting nearly $1,600 available in credits and rebates to help basically reduce the cost for a homeowner. You might be getting $2 per square foot of windows that might get replaced inside the home. You might then be able to get 20 to 30 cents per square foot for maybe a cool roof replacement in this case, which also can help with weatherization and as well as developing a better improved thermal envelope for the home itself. And as well as insulation, where you can maybe get 80% of attic insulation costs covered, or maybe $1 per square foot. And if you fall into the low income category, there could be other free services and even providing other free improvements as well, if you're basically means tested and are income eligible in this case for those types of those types of programs. So what could it mean potentially just from a dollars and cents standpoint? All right. So let's say we did some of these types of improvements for a particular property owner in Los Angeles, and their particular improvement project would have them doing maybe something on the order of $46,000 of energy saving improvements. And the incentives in this case that they might have available to them, it actually might help to give them $7,900 worth of incentives, as you see, for helping to reduce their project cost. So if you take the project cost and reduce it by the incentive amount, the final potential loan amount that you might be able to provide to the homeowner will be now the difference of this $38,400. So this then becomes an opportunity here where you still have the opportunity to do a pretty sizable loan to give to this potential property owner. But now maybe it's not quite as risky because now you're having incentives to come in here to help take costs off the top of the project, and the remainder then would be financed by the lending institution. And this is going to help to de-risk this project in this case, because now you're not having to lend the entire $46,000. Now instead, you have a slightly smaller amount, but you still have a pretty sizable project that you'll be able now to have on your loan portfolio, and then be able to get another win over the finish line for your lending institution. All right, so then how can we actually help you at IncentiFind for incorporating incentives into your sales cycle so you can actually get more projects done to help lend on energy efficiency? So the one way to do it is by incorporating what's known as this quick summary product that we have available. So as I was mentioning earlier on in this presentation, we have this product in this case, which could be a very quick, maybe just a couple of minutes worth of your time to fill out a survey to basically come back to find what basic improvements, and incentives that you would be able to get access to basically do that particular project in a certain community. So if you pique the interest, say, of a property owner to consider incorporating energy efficiency into their home improvement project, that would maybe be a time to consider introducing this product. So this is a very affordably priced tool that, just as its namesake is really suggesting, it's going to summarize how many incentives are available in the borrower's territory. So in order for them to consider making, say, an energy or even a water saving type improvement inside of their home. And so what basically the quick summary is designed to be able to do is to get the borrowers into the door. So basically, this is going to pique the interest of that borrower, and then basically the lender will then be able to pull them in more so that they can show them how they're basically then differentiating themselves according to any other lending institutions who are not using IncentiFind. Because now you're providing an additional value add to that property owner that they themselves may not have been aware of in the past about what other incentives and opportunities are out there, so that they can basically then create a much more comprehensive package of financing and incentives to help do that energy saving projects. And so this is going to only help lenders to grow their portfolios. It helps basically to sell more home equity loans, more refinancing type opportunities, to get more financing out of existing loans, in this case that have been taken out, by showing more value in the property. And then doing new construction or any other types of renovation projects in this case. So this is only going to help to enhance and grow your portfolio by doing more of these energy saving projects. And then, as I was mentioning, you have the opportunity now to be kind of the subject matter expert, where you're going to provide that valuable data to that property owner, and basically they can be able to determine if they think this would be a best opportunity for their home, in which case then to make more of those energy saving improvements. And then this is just a summary of really what this quick summary is going to look like. And so incidentally enough, this is the same quick summary that was actually created for the Los Angeles case study I just went through in this case. So this quick summary was done on this same home, and it showed in this case that in their community, they showed their particular incentive territory with having 75 different types of programs and types of efforts that would be making that can make their property more energy efficient. So just 36 types of incentives that they could get on energy efficiency alone, 24 for different types of renewables projects that they want to do, and then 15 on water conservation itself. So this will lay out pretty comprehensively, even in this quick summary, the types of the different incentives that they could get. And then this, again, creates the intrigue and wants to maybe pull that property owner in to explore more concretely what it is that they can get and for what types of improvements, so that they can basically then reduce their energy consumption inside of their home. All right, so how can we incorporate the quick summary then into your sales cycle? So in the beginning, we find out that whether or not a project could be good for energy efficiency really should start at that application phase. So it's at this point where you're finding out from that homeowner, what is it that they want to do? What's the type of project that they're looking to do? So the intake process and of doing that application helps you as a lender to find out, okay, what exactly are they doing and what are they basically seeking financing for? And then there are ways you can think about energy efficiency being incorporated into the project, in which case it's by according to what type of project that they're actually overall doing inside the home. So I went into this just before, and I'll go over it just quickly again. It really could break down to a few different types of opportunities. So, if it's not, say, an energy efficiency project that they've come in to you for, and that they've come in just for a standard home renovation project, a gut rehabilitation type project, or even a new construction project, if they are not coming into you with energy efficiency in mind, these still types of projects could be great ways to explain to them that if they're not thinking about energy efficiency, maybe this is a way that they could think about incorporating it in, because you have now maybe an understanding of how these types of improvements could actually overlay to the type of opportunity that they're coming into you for financing for. So for example, with a home renovation project, this might be a great way for them to maybe upgrade their appliances. Maybe they're putting in LED lighting. Maybe they're putting in more efficient and smart thermostats to regulate the temperature better, or putting in more efficient windows and doors if it's really just for better aesthetic purposes, but maybe more efficiency can also be incorporated into as part of those improvements. Then for the gut rehabilitation project, so I was mentioning, if you've got basically a home down to the studs inside and you're keeping the shell as is, now this is the opportunity for better wall insulation. Also, again, improvements with windows and doors. Better HVAC equipment as well, so for air conditioning and heating purposes, and as well as then for LED lighting as well. So, all of those opportunities could really be on the table if really you're down to the bare bones really of a home that you're trying to improve. And then lastly, on new construction, I think there's any kind of opportunity that you could be thinking of, because really, if you're building a ground up new home, you are basically now, the sky's the limit in terms of how efficient you can make that home. So, each jurisdiction could have a basic energy and building code, in this case, that home is required to be built to. And so, you don't just necessarily have to build to the code, you can go above and beyond, and then basically put in all different kinds of improvements that are really going to enhance and to improve how much basically that building could be energy efficient to operate, in this case, over the course of time. So I think there's endless possibilities for really what can be considered for a new construction project. And certainly, above all, renewables can also then be considered as well if you've already got a very energy efficiently designed home to be used in this case. So the bottom line here is that, even if they're not thinking about energy efficiency and that's not showing up on your loan application, if you don't see that, that's the time to educate them. So don't assume that, maybe they're not looking at those opportunities. Maybe this is something where now you have to show and demonstrate to them your knowledge base about energy efficiency. And this could be a way then you could educate them on how they could basically incorporate those energy efficient type improvements into their home project. This is then going to be a great way where now you can add value, certainly to the project that they're doing. And then at the same time, it could actually then increase the size of the loan that you may be able to give out to that property owner, because now you've convinced them that now energy efficiency could be a really good opportunity now for helping with their overall project. So I think with what information that we provided you here, this should now be a way for you to consider how you can basically incorporate the energy efficiency component into any given type of project they might come into you for financing, and now show that now you are a subject matter expert on another area, so that you can basically explain to them how basically you can make this project have exactly more value for basically making that home operate more efficiently from an energy standpoint. So thank you very much for listening to this webinar today provided by IncentiFind. I hope that you found it to be very resourceful and informational to you. We certainly encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. So if you do a check for IncentiFind on YouTube itself, or you go right to our IncentiFind website, you'll actually be able to find a link to go right to our YouTube page. We encourage you to basically go in there and subscribe to our channel, so you see the most up-to-date videos about what our products are doing, and especially for our future webinars that we're going to be doing, that's going to be tailored to the lender community. So we encourage you certainly to keep checking back in with us, and certainly too, you're free again to contact our founder and CEO, Natalie Goodman. She'll be happy to talk to you more about IncentiFind's products in the future. So again, thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have yourself a very pleasant day.